Hello, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And we're back for more conference breakdowns. We just ran through the mid majors, and now we're going to tackle the first of the Power Six, my Big East. Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it.
Let's not waste too much time getting right into it. Into the regular season champions, the Marquette Golden Eagles. Simply put, Shaka Smart is inevitable. He might win coach of the year because Marquette was projected to finish ninth in the conference, and now they're sitting at a borderline top five team in the country. They're currently ranked sixth. Marquette's built on their offense. They're fourth in Ken Pom adjusted offensive efficiency, and the guard play of Tyler Kolek has been the engine that makes Marquette's offense go, but the blossoming of Cam Jones has set the Golden Eagles over the top.
Yeah, no, they are a fantastic success story this year. Shaka Smart just has them straight up rolling. They have quite a few guys that can score. I think they're probably the positive example of not knowing who's going to lead you in scoring every night, just because of the fact they have basically like at least like 3-4 guys that can give you 20 on any random given night. Big strength from them. Obviously, like their guard play between Cam Jones and Tyler Kolek is just impressive. Like it's very impressive.
It's really, really
Um,
good.
Yeah, but one of the other things that's a big highlight for them is their ability to cause turnovers. They average 9.5 steals per game. So as good as their offense is, and their true man-to-man defense necessarily isn't one of the most efficient in the country, but they do cause turnovers at a pretty high clip, which can mess up a lot of defenses.
I mean, Ken Pom rankings be damned if you can just force turnovers and take advantage of that.
Their
Next,
offense will certainly be able to take advantage.
oh, for sure. The next team in the Big East is the Xavier Musketeers at second in the Big East. They can play really good, high quality basketball. From late November to early January, they rattled off 11 straight. Recently, it hasn't nearly been as great as they dropped three of their last five, and they're looking to get their groove back before the Big East tournament. They're another team with a high powered offense, also top 10 in Ken Pom adjusted offensive efficiency. And Xavier's core five, they play very well together as a unit, and it's that team play that makes them really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've had their rough stretches just like any other team, but when they are on, they are on. Like you said, that with some of
Not against
these
Butler, though.
losses, this is true. They have been susceptible to some off games, as you mentioned there, where despite averaging
Nickel
over
Court
80 points per
Storm.
game, well, they average over 80 points per game on the season, but in four of their last losses, they only put up offensive performances in the 60s. So that's where you sort of have the dichotomy of when they're on, they're on, but they are susceptible to some of those off shooting nights. But one of the big things that I think has been an issue for them in their most recent games is turnovers. When they turn the ball over, it's rough for them to get going offensively. They give up more easy buckets. And if they start giving up a lot of turnovers, it's hard for them to sort of right the ship.
Yeah, when you turn the ball over and your shooting isn't falling, then it's typically rough sledding. Xavier can be streaky at times in that regard. The next team we have is the Providence Friars, who was right at the top of the Big East last year. They're right back now, but it's a whole different team. It's a whole new style. They're not as dynamic as some other Big East offenses, but they're still very effective. They're right inside the top 15. And these guys won't be the favorites, but they can hang with some of the Big East best. They've gone 3-3 against ranked Big East teams this year, so they can clearly hang with the top dogs, even though nobody really expects them to.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely a very deep team that can shoot the ball well. They really can light it up on any given day, but they've had some rough losses here and there throughout the season. But that's mostly come from their defense. Like you said, their offensive efficiency is still very well, and they're a different look team than they have been in the past. Some of those forwards have been great for them, with Bryce Hopkins leading the way at 16.5 points per game. The big thing for them is defense and turnovers. They average around 12 turnovers a game. So they're another team that can kind of shoot themselves in the foot if they just keep doing their thing, and stay control over their own offense. Then they will typically play some pretty good basketball.
Are you seeing a common theme yet? Turnovers are
Not
not
good.
good. Who would have thunk it? But Creighton is an incredibly streaky boomer bust type team. When it's good and they're winning, they roll. However, when they get on a losing streak, it's bad and they just can't figure things out. Like, what kind of team is in the top 10 and also loses to Nebraska at home by double digits? That is not great. But after rolling off eight straight, the Blue Jays have lost three of their last four, and they're like kind of in their rough patch stage of Creighton basketball. But the thing that gets them competitive in any given night is Ryan Kalkbrenner. Guy's a 7'1" unicorn and a special player that Creighton builds around. Not to mention Baylor Shireman, the transfer from South Dakota State. He knocks down threes at a very impressive clip and gets you that outside threat as well. Don't let Creighton get hot if they can get out of their own way.
Yeah, another big thing for them, especially throughout the season, was injuries. They did deal with some injury woes along the way. We saw last year a big part of the reason why Creighton bowed out was the injury to Kalkbrenner. So we hope that you can keep him healthy in hopes of actually having the full powered Creighton team coming into the tournament. But like you said, the transfer of Shireman has been huge for them. Not only does he shoot it at such high clip for them, but also he's listed as a 6'7" guard. And he averages 8.2 rebounds per game. So they're a great team rebounding team. So they're absolutely great with that, and they have some experienced guards who can shoot the three as well. But you're right that everything goes through Kalkbrenner as it should. With him on the court, they're a wildly different team, and if they can keep everybody healthy and, like you said, keep out of their own way, they can really put up a fight against just about anybody.
You know, Tim, it's not often when you see the 5th seed in the tournament be the conference favorite, but that's the case with UConn. And that's what happens because their conference record is incredibly deceiving. They're 23-7 overall, 12-7 in conference. Every game they've lost has been within the Big East. But this UConn team is really, 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 really good. They jumped as far as what, 2nd, 3rd in the AP polls. And there was a reason for that. They rattled off their first 14 to start the season, but they hit a rough patch in the middle of the year and they lost 6 of 8. They are in the rare air of teams that are both in the top 25 in KenPom adjusted offense and adjusted defense. And now they're playing like the early season UConn because they've won 5 out of their last 6 and they're getting hot at just the right time.
Yeah, I mean, this is flashes of what we saw at the beginning of the season when people were calling them potentially the top team in the country. And they did drop 5 out of 6 games in late December and early January. But like you said, on paper, they still have one of the best combined offensive and defensive efficiencies in the country. And they definitely have the guys to back it up with the two-headed monster in the front court with Adama Sanogo and Karaban. But the big thing for them is a pattern that I've seen that has been an issue for them is keeping those bigs out of foul trouble. They play those 2 bigs a lot, and oftentimes they can get both of them in foul trouble, which not only, causes disruptions in their own lineup, but they are susceptible to giving the other team a lot of free throws. And in a game when either if a team is shooting well, gosh, that's shooting yourself in the foot. But if they're not shooting well, what a way to let them back in the game.
Villanova is another team that's not normally this far low in the Big East standings. They're in 6th place right now, but they've simply put struggled under first-year head coach Kyle Neptune. Jay Wright left, Neptune took over, and they've dealt with a lot of injuries this year and a lot of bad luck, but they're heating up at just the right time with back-to-back ranked wins. So if there's any team that can steal a bid and win the Big East tournament, then Villanova would be your dark horse.
Yeah, absolutely. They you saw them have a ton of struggles throughout the middle of the season. People sort of wrote them off up until recently when they've started winning those games here. And if there's definitely a lot of guys that have great experience on that team. A huge thing for them is having Justin Moore coming back from injury. He's now just played 10 games on the season. So he's been a huge influence on their team. But realistically, I mean, what it comes down to is playing good basketball at the right time. And Villanova is doing that, so nobody should count them out.
Yeah, that's all you can really ask for. And we, of course, are saving the best Big East team for last. You already know we have to cover them, Tim. We have to. They're just inevitable. They're indomitable, and they're going to sweep everybody. They are inevitable. Butler is inevitable. They will play a game in the Big East tournament. So in that way, they are inevitable, but realistically, they've fallen far short of expectations. The one boom buster believable that was not about the Big Ten, I did about Butler. So if you want to see how our season has gone, you can watch that. But they're looking to match up with St. John's in the first round. And in order to shake things up, they're going to need to get through St. John's and then get through Marquette, which is really, really scary. But let's go, Dogs. Play the spoiler. You can do it. I believe
Big
in
thing,
you.
big thing for them is I think they just have to heat up offensively, because their offense just isn't particularly there in terms of averages and
Tim,
shooting.
do you know what you're
Um,
asking of us?
that's what, with the team like that, you need a
Do you know
little
what
bit
you're
of a
asking of
miracle.
us, man? Oh, that's a tall order. Like I remember, I forget which Boom Buster Believable it was off the top of my head, but you talked about a team that had like 3 or 4 top scorers right around that 11 to 13 points per game range. That's literally Butler, like Jaden Taylor, Manny Bates, Seamus Lukosius, and at some points, like Chuck Harris will find himself in that range, are all around that for the season. And we don't know who our best player is. Like,
Yep.
this is an example of like who's going to step up, but we don't know who's going to step up.
It's lack of team identity, really. You don't know what your go-to thing is on any given team or on
Our,
any
our
given
thing
game.
is not having a thing. So hopefully that'll be a thing in the Big East tournament. And let's go dogs. But those are all the major Big East teams we have to cover. Tim, who do you have winning the Big East tournament?
I'm going to hand this over to you first. I want to hear this is your conference. Who do you have coming out of your conference? Because I'm curious to hear this before I give my input.
That's fair. That's fair. I really like the way this team is playing as of recently. There's a ton of teams in this conference that's hot at just the right time, but I got to give it to UConn. They're the conference favorites for a reason, even though they're that low seeded. The Huskies can definitely catch lightning in a bottle. It is not out of the question for Adama Sanogo and Jordan Hawkins to just get hot at the right time and just start dunking on everybody. So I'll take the Huskies to win this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're playing incredible basketball not only lately, but we've seen the flashes of just how high their ceiling can be, especially during the beginning of the season. For me personally, you talk about like playing basketball at the right, like good basketball at the right time. Um, to shake things up a
Are
bit,
you gonna do it? Are
I
you
got
gonna pick the dark?
Villanova.
You're gonna pick
I got
Villanova?
Villanova. I
Oh
think
boy.
they are not only playing
Oh
really good
dear.
basketball as of lately, but I love the experience that they have with
Okay.
guys like Dixon, with Justin Moore, with Caleb Daniels. You've got a lot of guys on that team that have previous experience, and they are rallying around that experience right now. And I think that they have a shot to do it. They
Oh,
can they can beat any of these teams.
well, Tim, the bracket's in their favor. They go through Georgetown in the first round as it stands right now, and then they have to go through Providence, which, if you're going to face a team out of Marquette, Xavier, Providence, and Creighton, you
Yeah.
probably want to play
You
Providence.
would think Providence is arguably the most exposable.
Yeah, so it's
They
not
could
out of the
sneak themselves
question.
into the championship game.
It's not out of the
And then
question.
once you get to the championship game, anything can
Anything can
happen.
happen. I
Yeah.
mean, 2 years ago, Georgetown won this conference. So
That was so funny.
that gives me hope as a Butler fan, because if a program as bad as Georgetown with Patrick Ewing can win this tournament, why can't Thad Matta and the
Why
Dogs?
not?
Why not us? Why not now? But that's all we got for the Big East breakdown. We're going to be running through the rest of the Power Six before Selection Sunday to get you ready for everything you need to know for March Madness. But if you want to watch more stuff on our channel, we have a ton of college basketball content. Tim, you ran through the entirety of the Big Ten. We have NFL content, a little bit of NBA content, and we're going to have lots more coming up for you as March turns into April and time keeps moving on. But like and subscribe for more stuff from us. And until next time, we out. See, Tim, I don't know what the problem is. Like, Butler's just really, really good, and they're just going to win every single